Okay, I'm about ready to get this engine pulled out of the old Allis Chalmers here. I'm just looking at how to do this. I'm most likely going to pull it out to the left. I have this bar right here, which I don't really want to take off. I plan on attempting to sell the carcass of this tractor once the engine is pulled out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start disconnecting everything. Get the radiator out, get the radiator out of the way. It is already drained. I did that last weekend. Get the fuel drained. It does still have fuel in it. I'd like to take a bunch of pictures or do it in the video of where everything is, like the throttle linkage and the kill. This is the throttle, I do believe. Yeah, get in here. Yeah, there's the kill. The kill's right there. That's the throttle. So it is sticking because, again, it's pretty cold out here. But just do a quick note in the video of where everything is. So I can even just send this video to the guy who's getting the engine, and he can just watch the video and figure out how everything goes back together. Most likely the air intake's going to be taken off, and I will plug it with paper towels. The radiator's obviously coming off. I'm going to unhook the muffler right there, hopefully nothing snaps. I think that's a little bit too big to go into the crate to be shipped. It's going from where I live to the Ottawa area, as far as I know. It's going from the 519 to the 613. So, if you know the area code geographics here in Ontario, Canada, you'll know where I mean, or Canada in general. But here's the other side. I got to drain the oil. I'm hopefully going to leave like stuff like the alternator and all that stuff on it. The fan, I don't know, it might have to come off. I don't want to take the water pump off, but if I can get the fan off to get it down a little bit smaller, I will. It's not an overly large engine, but I just got to get it stripped down so I can fit it on a piece of plywood and get it shipped for cheap as possible. This piece of plywood right here is what I'm most likely going to use. It's I believe 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick. It might only be a ½ inch, I don't really know. I don't have measuring tape on hand. Stuff like the drive shaft, I'm obviously keeping. I'm just going to disconnect it from the back of the engine and go from there. But the air cleaner will come off, and that's going to shrink down the engine quite a bit. And then the radiator obviously will come out. And he's getting all the wiring to go with the engine, so I got to figure out what wiring will be going with the engine. Obviously, my new battery cables are staying with me. The starter's obviously going with the tractor, the ignition switch, the lights over here. Also, I gotta get a picture of the starter button. Might as well do that now. But I ran out of memory on my phone. But look at the starter, how its wiring is. It does not go through the original wiring. They have a push button set up, which I hate push buttons. I hate them with a passion, really. I just really don't like them. They're not really safe because they can get stuck on, and the engine continues to crank. And there's just a lot of issues with push buttons, so I just don't like using them. I don't recommend using them. But anyways, disconnect the fuel lines. But that's basically your PCV valve. But as far as I know, all this engine really needs is a front seal. To me, that's all it seems like it needs. This has a minor oil leak at the front, and it only seems like it does it when when it runs. So, but anyways, the guy's going to be putting this in another Kubota, I do believe. He's converting the gas to a diesel, a 3-cylinder gas to the 2-cylinder diesel. But hey, it's up to him. So, as long as I get the money. And also, like I said, it's easier to sell this engine with it out, as no one seems to want the entire tractor with this engine. They just want this engine. So, hey, it's up to you. If you want to buy it, go ahead. He's giving me a few extra bucks to pull the engine out anyways, so it doesn't really bother me too much. But I don't know if I'm going to get this pulled out today or not. It's pretty cold out here. I might get all the wiring disconnected, get all the linkages disconnected, and get the fuel drained. Okay, I got a fair bit accomplished in a relatively short period of time. The diesel is just about all drained. The radiator's out. There was a little bit of water antifreeze left in the radiator. Got that drained out safely. The two radiator hoses are blocked off. The wiring is started to be taken apart. Luckily, just about everything is all plug and play. I gotta find out the constant power feed. I know it comes off the starter. I don't know if I want to unhook it from the starter and to separate out the wiring that way, or leave everything connected and wrap it all up in like a nice harness right on top of the engine. Kind of like when if you get a if the proper way you're supposed to get an engine from the junkyard, all the wiring's just sitting on top. Like I said, the diesel's still draining. This actually has a brain box. I found it right here. I gotta get that out of the way. So the guy's obviously getting all the wiring for this tractor, so gonna get all that done. The issue that I'm having is, or it will be, with draining the oil. I cannot drain the oil until I get the engine pretty much out. This is the way that they put this thing together. It has two drains. One at the side of the block, at least I think that's a drain. Actually, no, sorry, that's not a drain. That's a mount, I think. Initially thought one of those bolts right there was a drain, but the drain's in the bottom of the sump, and you can't really access that. So I just gotta work on getting that out. When I unbolt the engine, I'm gonna turn the engine sideways. I'm gonna drain the oil. Also, the line going to the back right here, the PCV, still needs to be disconnected. There's some oil in that has to come out and get disposed of safely, because I don't dump oil on the ground, and when oil does spill on the ground, I immediately clean it up. Gotta save the environment. So there's where we're at for right now. The drive shaft is also disconnected. The coupler is staying with the tractor, and the drive shaft's obviously staying with the tractor. He's only getting the engine. It'll be the complete engine, radiator, wiring harness, everything you pretty much need to make this engine run, the brain box, etc. I'm probably going to give him the throttle cable. I don't think I have a use for it. It kind of seems like a special throttle cable anyways. If you look at the one end here, it's the type of cable I wanted to put on the GT6000 diesel. So it's actually a braided cable. It's not a hard steel cable like GT had. So it shouldn't be too much to get that out of there. I'm probably going to take the diesel tank out now, because it's kind of blocking some of the wiring, and it's pretty much in my way. And I do kind of want to salvage the steering wheel before I sell the carcass of this tractor. That's what I'm going to try and do, is recoup the rest of my money out of the carcass of this tractor. It's still in decent shape. The transaxle is still good. The gearbox is still good. So there's still value here. It just won't have an engine. I was also considering repowering this with that 10, I believe it's a 10 horse Briggs I have that came in that old GT I had. I salvaged the transmission out of. I was considering putting that engine in here. If it's not a huge job to do, I may consider it. It all comes down to the drive shaft. Sorry about that, I thought somebody was at my gate. But anyways, I may end up trying that, we'll see. I don't want to get into too much work, because then it doesn't make it worth it to do it, especially on a tractor you want to go and sell. The John Deere work, on the other hand, it's kind of worth it, because that tractor is kind of worth the money, and it does run now, and it does drive decently. So you gotta think about, when you're doing work on these things, is it worth it, and how's your bottom line going to be when you go to resell it? So I gotta think about that. So this might be worth more as just a carcass. It might be worth more if I try to repower it. We'll see. So there's where we're at for now. Okay, I'm finished for the day now. Everything is disconnected the way I'm going to have it shipped. I did not unhook anything from the engine except for the temperature sensor. Everything else is still connected to the engine. I want to keep everything in its own little wiring harness. I do not want to leave anything like relays, and that's the horn for the for overheating. I do not want to leave any of that attached to the engine, so that will go in a bag separately. The ignition's all out, the little control box is out, the throttle's still sitting off to the side. But everything's all disconnected. I did reconnect all the wiring. It did crank over still, and all the lights did come on still. So nothing's damaged on that side. I was worried I pulled a wire or two out, but I did not. But just got 4 engine bolts and drained the oil, and this engine should be ready to lift out of here. I'm hoping I can package it up into this size right here. That's my hope. It's going to be a bit bigger because of the radiator, and then I'll stick all the wiring in with it. But there it is. It's out, or sorry, it's ready to be pulled out, and it's ready to be packaged up, which will probably be next weekend, or I might undo the motor mounts tomorrow. It all depends on how cold it is. But there it is. I'll talk to him later. Please keep redneck like always, and please comment.